Hello, I'm Barry Shore, Professor Emeritus at the University of New Hampshire and Head of Content Development here at SSGI. Black Belt certification, as you are aware, is one step beyond the Green Belt. Not only does it introduce new topics such as the design of experiments, but it also dives deeper into the statistics behind many of the concepts introduced in a Green Belt course. This basic introduction to the Black Belt focuses on many of the concepts and tools that have proven useful in ensuring efficient and quality-driven operational processes. As most of you are also aware, there are 4 levels of competency and certification associated with the practice of Lean Six Sigma. The first is the Yellow Belt, an introduction to the skills and methodologies of this discipline. The second is the Green Belt, which explores those areas in somewhat more detail, including an introduction to the statistical tools used in process control. The third is the Black Belt, which dives even deeper into these concepts and skills while also preparing individuals to lead small projects. The highest level is the Master Black Belt, which focuses on leading larger scale and more complex Lean Six Sigma projects. To begin, it is important to separate Lean from Six Sigma. Lean primarily focuses on process efficiency. Its objective is to eliminate delays, errors, and waste. For example, a Lean project would be appropriate to improve efficiency at the Bailey Eye Clinic. It would focus on those delays leading to long patient processing times, and then focus would shift to eliminating them. Or we might study the training program for online customer service agents at an international airline. Management would like to make the training process more efficient. At present, it takes 6 months to train representatives. Is it possible to shorten the time to become a productive member of the customer service team? Again, another application for Lean. Six Sigma, on the other hand, focuses on consistency and control. The reality is that the output from almost every process varies. Consider a new car purchase. When Adele purchased a new Honda, one of her first trips was from New York to Miami. After spending a day with a friend, the car failed to start. The problem? A shorted battery. So, perfect process outcomes, even for companies with a reputation for high quality, are elusive. The reality is that high quality and consistency are challenging for organizations to sustain, and is the focus of many Lean Six Sigma studies. Once we have uncovered a problem or opportunity that needs to be addressed, it is important to think about how to proceed. What has become clear to Lean Six Sigma professionals is that an organized approach is essential. Unless organized, outcomes can be disappointing. This is why all professionals in this area rely on an approach called DMAIC. The D represents the definition of the problem. It must be clear, concise, and free of jargon. The next step is M, or measurement. Simply said, if a situation can't be measured, then it will be almost impossible to determine how it has been improved once the changes have been implemented. So we need data. Then we analyze that data with the intent of uncovering the root cause of the problem, not just its symptoms. Next, we determine how the problem or situation can be improved. Finally, we establish a control system so that we can monitor the process over time and ensure that it continues to meet objectives. To better understand a process, Lean Six Sigma professionals begin with a SIPOC diagram. SIPOC is shorthand for suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, and customers. It is a diagram that identifies all the suppliers, inputs, process steps, output, and customers. By undertaking this analysis, they are assured of a better understanding of the process from its beginning to its end. Value stream maps are flowcharts that graphically display the flow of work or people from one end of a process to another. So we might draw a flowchart of patients moving through an emergency department at a hospital, or sub-assemblies moving through an assembly process at a factory. These charts are very helpful when analyzing a process and pinpointing where delays or waste occur. Each step in these processes is represented by a rectangle. The flow is from left to right. Often these maps are used to describe the flow before corrective action is taken, and again at the end of the improved stage to document the new process. Where do we look for process improvement opportunities? Experience in Lean Six Sigma has taught us that there are 8 areas worth exploring. Here are those areas as well as the challenges that might be encountered. Transportation logistics. Too much movement of people and items. Inventory. Too much or too little inventory. Motion. Unnecessary movement when performing a job that adds little or no value. Waiting. Idle work or staff that adds little or no value, such as idle time between operations. Over-processing. Efforts that add little or no value to a product or service. Overproduction. Producing more than the customer requires. Defects. Work that is rejected, reworked, or scrapped. Human resources. Failure to utilize the time and talents of people. What about the way in which the workplace is organized? The Lean literature identifies 5 suggestions for improving process efficiency. First is sort. Organize the workplace so that what you need is in a predictable and easy to access location. Second, set in order. Choose a specific location where supplies will be stored. Eliminate the need to search when performing a specific sequence of steps. Shine. Establish a clean work and storage environment. 4. Standardize. Standardize what has been accomplished. Everyone should know where to find what they need. And last, sustain. Enforce standards over time. Make the 5S part of group culture. When the phrase Six Sigma quality or Six Sigma process is used, it expresses a very specific level of quality. A Six Sigma process is one that delivers fewer than 3.4 defects per million opportunities. Here are some examples of how this concept can be applied in practice. A restaurant would deliver fewer than 3.4 defective meals per 1 million meals. A hospital would experience fewer than 3.4 infections per 1 million patients. An auto insurance company would experience fewer than 3.4 errors per million claims. An airline would experience fewer than 3.4 late departures per million departures. A printer manufacturer would experience fewer than 3.4 million defective units per 1 million produced. Indeed, these are very high standards and may be appropriate for surgical procedures in hospitals, nuclear power plants, and aircraft safety, but they would be very costly when delivering meals at restaurants or entering customer data into insurance forms. For them, a 4 or 5 sigma level would be more appropriate. Of course, You could always deliver Six Sigma quality from a restaurant kitchen, but few, if any, customers would be willing to pay the high price that would support this level of quality. The output from every process varies. No two running shoes assembled at a factory are exactly the same. No two meals at a restaurant are exactly the same, and no two patients will experience the exact same level of care in a hospital. In Lean Six Sigma, we are concerned about this level of variance because we need to ensure reasonable consistency of output. In other words, we need to maintain quality over time in the face of normal levels of variation. When variation gets too large, it might be that our processes are out of control and we are no longer capable of delivering consistent results. For example, when patient satisfaction falls from 90 to 65, we would suspect that the caregiving process has failed to deliver consistent care. Once a process has been designed or redesigned, steps must be taken to ensure that its output remains within acceptable limits. We need assurance that the natural variation of the process is maintained within bounds. To ensure this, we take periodic samples of output and plot the results on a control chart. Here is a description of a typical control chart. The vertical axis, Y, represents sample results such as patient satisfaction. The horizontal axis, X, represents the date or time the sample was taken. The center horizontal line represents the average level of process output for a process that is in control. The line above the average represents the upper control limit, or the point above which sample results suggest the process is out of control. The lower horizontal line represents the lower control limit, below which a sample result suggests the process is out of control. Finding the cause of a problem after it has occurred and then correcting it is certainly one way to manage process performance. In most situations, however, it makes more sense to be proactive and prevent it from happening in the first place. We can do this by convening a brainstorming session and then exploring the possible vulnerabilities of the process. Then we can make changes that will minimize the risk of certain events from occurring. This process is called Failure Mode and Effects Analysis, or FMEA. Here are several challenges. How would you improve the design of roadways to prevent accidents? How would you prevent the driver of a rental truck from crashing into a low roof at a gas station? How would you prevent software users from sending an email but neglecting to add an attachment that is mentioned in the body of the email? How would you redesign an information system to increase security? Poka-yoke is a Japanese term that can be translated as mistake proofing. It typically involves the use of systems, software, procedures, or devices to reduce or eliminate the possibility that an error will occur or makes the error instantly noticeable once it does occur. Examples include the lane departure warning system in an automobile, SD cards that can only be inserted in one direction, and the handle on a lawnmower that will stop the blade from rotating when it is released by the operator. Hypothesis testing is the use of statistics to determine if there is sufficient evidence in a sample to conclude whether a certain condition is true for an entire population. Let me explain by using a few examples. Suppose a Lean Six Sigma project has just been undertaken to shorten the time it takes to process an order from the time it is received until it is shipped. Before the project was undertaken, the average was 25 hours. The goal was to reduce this to 18 hours. Now that the project has been completed, how do we know that it has been successful? We take a sample, for example, 30 orders, compute the average time to process them, and then employ statistical techniques to determine if there is enough evidence to conclude if the project goal has been achieved. Here is another example. Suppose we need to compare the performance of two proposed web pages. We load both pages onto the website and then record a sample of 100 sales attributed to each. This is called an A/B analysis. Next, we conduct a test of hypothesis to determine if there is sufficient evidence to conclude that one is better than the other. Suppose we have been asked to compare the benefits of a new lung cancer drug. In a phase 3 trial, 1,500 patients were given the drug and an equal number were given a placebo. Those who took the drug lived 3 months longer than those who did not. The question is this: is there sufficient evidence to conclude that the new drug is better? For all three examples, a test of hypothesis is taken to determine if there is sufficient evidence to decide if objectives have been met. In regression, we use statistical techniques to determine if there is a relationship between two variables. In addition, we determine the strength of this relationship, referred to as correlation. For example, we might like to determine if there is a relationship between the length of an onboarding process and the productivity of new hires 3 weeks after the onboarding process has been completed. Here's another example. We might like to know if there is a relationship between the expenditure on Google Ads and total revenue. In these examples, the variable we would like to explain is called the dependent variable, and the variable that does the explaining is called the independent variable. So in the Google Ad example, sales would be the dependent variable, and the dollars spent on Google Ads would be considered the independent variable. To explore the relationship, we can display these variables on a graph. The dependent variable is on the vertical axis, while the independent variable is on the horizontal axis. Here we see several data points plotted on the graph. The direction of the line projected through these points suggests that there is indeed a relationship, and the closeness of these points to that line also suggests that the degree of the relationship is strong. This implies a strong relationship between sales and advertising dollars. Knowledge like this helps us make informed advertising decisions. In confidence interval estimation, we begin with a sample and then use the sample results to make a statement about the population from which the sample was drawn. So we might take a sample of customers to determine if they were satisfied with the service they received when placing an order. We then compute the sample average or mean. Suppose we find that the average is 84%, but this is just a sample, and another sample could produce a slightly different percentage of satisfied customers. To reflect this apparent uncertainty, we build a confidence interval around the sample mean. So we might conclude that the average satisfaction level is 84% plus or minus 2%. This is called a confidence interval. The most common example is political polling. Once a poll is taken, usually in the range of 1,500 voters, a statement about the population of all voters is made. We might say, for example, the percentage of voters favoring candidate A is 46% plus or minus 4%. This interval clearly says that we have a result, but the true and unknown population mean is not known with certainty. Indeed, no sample can perfectly state the true but unknown mean of a population. Design of experiments, DOE, is a systematic approach to designing and conducting experiments whose objective it is to study the relationship between variables and to optimize processes. The first step in DOE is to identify the outcome, which in DOE is called the response. The second step is to identify those input variables over which the designer has control, called factors in DOE. The third step is to design the experiment. Suppose an auto tire manufacturer would like to redesign a process to improve the durability and performance of its premium tire line. So the response is durability and performance. The factors include the type of rubber used, the temperature at which the tire is cured, and the pressure applied during the curing process. The objective of the experiment will be to determine what combination of factors and at what level will deliver the best durability and performance. Now, let's move to the third step and design the experiment. Here is a common approach. 2 treatment levels for each of the 3 variables will be established. Often the 2 levels are at the lowest and highest level of a range. We will call these levels high, or H, and low, or L. For example, we would set the temperature at low and then at high. If we set 2 levels for each of the 3 factors, we would need 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8 trials to cover all possible combinations. This is called a full factorial design. Tires are then manufactured to meet the criteria for each of these categories. For example, the first tire would have low rubber, low temperature, and low pressure. The experiment is run, and the durability and performance of each tire are measured. From this data, it is then possible to conclude which combination of the 3 factors delivered the best result. DOE can be considerably more complex, but this example does provide a workable introduction to the topic. Most importantly, it does help you understand how DOE can contribute to designing processes that have several factors under the control of system designers. That's it, a quick introduction to the concepts and tools at the black belt level that contribute to the design and operation of lean processes capable of delivering quality outcomes. While it was a brief introduction, it covered many of the basic concepts and tools associated with this discipline. SSGI offers a full course, a virtual case study, and certification in Lean Six Sigma at the black belt level. While some background in statistics can prove helpful and shorten the learning curve, the SSGI course covers the basic concepts before introducing more advanced ones. However, it is still important to have earned a green belt before advancing to the black belt course. How long does it take? In total, if you include the course, chapter quizzes, virtual project, and certification exam, the course should take about 2 months. This assumes that you can spend at least 1 hour each night on the material. It is, of course, an average, with some taking shorter or longer times to complete the course. SSGI also offers a wide range of certification courses from project management to leadership. Please check our website for more details. I encourage you to take this important step in advancing your career. Thanks for watching.